In part 3 of this talk on the Eucharist, we are going to be sharing some powerful stories of the Eucharist, of how the Eucharist has transformed people's lives, and how the Eucharist has personally transformed my life, has changed my life around, and has given me more peace and joy and power than I ever could have imagined. We're going to see how the Eucharist can really just change your life. If the Eucharist really is Jesus, and this is what we've been talking about, that it really is Jesus, the true presence of the Eucharist, then it really can change our life. And we're going to talk about why it does and why it doesn't, and how we can dispose ourselves to the Eucharist even more. I remember a story when I was at a youth conference many years ago, and I remember talking to a girl, and she was really pretty, and I wanted to get to know her more. This girl and I sat in a parking lot on the ground in the middle of nowhere in the conference, and we just talked to each other for like an hour. And she had really pretty blue eyes, and I really wanted to look into those blue eyes. And she never looked at me. She looked at the ground the whole time. And I mean, it was weird, but I was enjoying the conversation. She was really fun to talk to and fun to get to know, but she was staring at my shoes. So we finished the conversation, and it was great, and I enjoyed talking to her. But then that night, we went to Eucharistic adoration. We went to the prayer service that they had at this youth conference, and this girl the next day came to me, and she saw me, and she ran to me and gave me a big hug, and she said, guess what happened to me last night? And I said, what happened to you? And she said, remember when I was talking to you in the parking lot and I was just staring at your shoes and I wasn't even looking at you? She said, that's because I'm blind, or I was blind, but last night we went to the Eucharistic adoration and Jesus healed me from my blindness. I wasn't completely blind. I could see only 3 inches in front of my face, so therefore I couldn't see you at all. But within 6 months, my doctor said I would be completely 100% blind, and I had given up all my dreams for art school and college and everything else. But now, last night, the priest came in front of me, she said, and he blessed me with the Eucharist. And as soon as I looked at the Eucharist, I was healed. And I could look around and see all colors, all distances, everything 20/20. And the girl was blown away because she was healed by Jesus. And I had noticed that the girl wasn't looking at me and couldn't see, apparently. And now she could see perfectly. And that is one example of many that I could give of how Jesus has literally done miracles through the Eucharist. Several years ago, I was giving a retreat. Here at Catholic Truth, we give lots of retreats, youth retreats, confirmation retreats, parish missions. And this particular retreat, we were giving to a confirmation class. And at the end of all of our retreats, we give a Eucharistic adoration prayer service. During the adoration time, we offer these kids the ability to go up to kneelers. We put 2 kneelers up near the altar, and if the teens want to, they can go up and kneel on those kneelers close to the altar and close to the monstrance and close to the Eucharist and really just pour out their hearts to Jesus. And sometimes kids go up there for 30 seconds, other times for 2 minutes, other times for 10, 20, or even 30 minutes, crying, really praying their hearts out like you've never even seen adults pray. Some of these teens pray so hard, and it's beautiful to see. During one particular adoration, we had one boy who was captain of the football team, and he came up to the Eucharist. He went up, and he said later on that he was afraid because he was worried about what his friends thought, but he went up to the Eucharist, and he actually went up to the Eucharist, to the monstrance, to the gold thing that holds the Eucharist, and he placed his hand on it. Now, this kid had been hurt. He had torn all the muscles in his neck, in his shoulder, and in his kind of chest-like area because he had been rolled over by 3 kids during a rugby game. And so he came to the retreat in a sling, and he couldn't even move. In fact, he said he couldn't eat because it hurt to chew. He couldn't laugh at his friends' jokes because it hurt too much, and he had to sleep sitting up. And so this kid was really hurt. And when he went up there and he touched the Eucharist, the monstrance, with his hand, which technically you're not supposed to do. I didn't know he was going to do it. But he stayed up there for 15 minutes. And later on, after the retreat, he came down. He said, Bryan, can I speak to you for a minute? And I said, sure. What's going on? And he said, I just want to tell you that you remember how my arm, was really pulled and all my muscles were pulled and it was really bad? Well, I just want to let you know that Jesus healed me completely during that prayer service. And I said, I'm kind of a skeptic. I said, what do you mean Jesus healed you during the prayer service? And he said, no. He's like, Bryan, I'm going to be honest with you. This kid was shaking. He's like, He's like, I'm a little freaked out. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not that religious. I haven't been that religious. I haven't been praying as much as I should. I haven't been going to church, though I'm going to now. He's like, but I want to let you know that Jesus completely healed me. And he pulled out the sling that his arm was in with his bad arm, and he started swinging it around. He's like, look, he's like, I have full range of motion in my arm. He's like, when I went up there, I touched the monstrance, and immediately I got the thought in my head, oh my gosh, I'm the head of this sports team and all my friends are watching me. And I immediately had the temptation to go sit back down because I was too embarrassed to be up here. But I felt this power, this heat, electricity type feeling that I can't explain coming through my arm over into my shoulder. And I felt this warmth, this heat, almost like a fire healing my arm, and now it's actually completely healed, literally 100% healed. And I saw this kid, I ran into this kid a year later, and I said, hey, how's your arm doing? How's your shoulder? And he said, it's perfect. He's like, ever since that day, it's been completely healed. And so this kid wanted to start praying again, going back to church again, and living for God again, because Jesus healed him through the Eucharist. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? God still works in and through the Eucharist. When I had my first reversion, it was through the Mass in the Eucharist that I had this. In fact, most people say the Mass is boring. The Mass doesn't do anything. You have to go to a fun church to be fed and to receive Jesus. But no, Jesus healed me. All of my anger, hate, pain. I mean, he really, during that Mass, he said he would heal everything for me if I wanted it. And if I followed him, and if I gave my life to him, he would completely renew me inside and out and make me new. So that was my first powerful experience with God. And I experienced him in a real way. However, right after that time, I ended up going home from college, and right after my reversion, the devil wanted to attack me. He beat me down in so many different ways. My friends were making fun of me and bullying me about my religion. My parents didn't understand it and were lecturing me, calling me a holy roller, telling me I was too good for everyone now. I mean, everybody seemed to be against me. And it was like all the joy I had and everything good that I had, it seemed like running into a brick wall and it all falling out. I was just really struggling. And it was at that time that God allowed the devil to obsess my thoughts. Demonic obsession is one of the 5 levels of demonic attack. One of the ways that the devil can attack you. Possession, demonic oppression, demonic obsession, manifestations, etc. And this is where he gets into your mind and he puts stuff in there and then obsessively keeps them there and plays them over and over and over like a movie. Now, these are things that were disgusting, were unholy, were horrible. I would never think of in my entire life. I would never even think of to think of, and yet they were being put in my head like a movie playing over and over. And every time I would cry out to God and say, God, help me, please. And I'd hear this voice constantly in my head. Why would God help you? You're thinking these disgusting thoughts and you're thinking about Jesus. And I said, Jesus, you know I'm not thinking these thoughts. God, please help me. I'm not thinking these thoughts. And this voice would come into my head and say, of course you're thinking of these thoughts. They're in your head, aren't they? They're coming from you. You're thinking the thoughts. And I would say, God, please. And literally every single day, I was tortured day in and day out for a week. I had to play video games at night until 2 a.m, until I couldn't even stay awake anymore. I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And it was at that time that I would run and jump in bed and hope I fell asleep before I started thinking deeply, because the devil was tormenting me. And at the end of a week, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I remember I cried out to God and I said, God, what are you doing? You promised that you would never give us anything that we could not handle. Well, guess what, God? I can't handle this. It's too much for me. And I started yelling at God. I can't take it anymore. Take it away from me. Free me, God. You promised. Help me, God. And with that, I went to bed and just told him how I felt, raw and honest, and then I went to bed. And that night, Jesus was going to completely deliver me, exorcise me in a sense, from this demonic activity through a dream. And just for the record, full disclosure, I generally don't believe in spiritual dreams. They can happen. St. Joseph had one, and people have rarely had them through history, but most people who claim to have spiritual dreams, they're not really supernatural dreams the way we think they are. Those are so rare. But this was one occurrence when a supernatural dream did happen. And in that dream, I remember I was in a library, and a Catholic priest came up to me, and he said, "Bryan, do you have your rosary?" And I said, "No, Father, I forgot it." And he said, "Good." And all of a sudden his eyes got all evil, and all the curtains of the library closed, and everything got pitch dark in a second. And I could feel this cloud of evil descending upon me, coming upon me, similar to what I was experiencing in real life. And I looked out of the curtains, I looked outside, and everything became pitch black, except for one spot, one little dot of light in the middle of the sun. Even the sun had closed off to complete darkness, except for one little tiny light showing through. And I remember crying out in my dream, "Jesus, Jesus, help me. You said you would help me. Please help me." Similar to how I was before I went to bed that night. I started screaming out to Jesus at that time. And as soon as I cried out to Jesus, just like I had done before, in this dream, something shot out of the sun. Out of that little dot of light, something shot out of it, and I couldn't see what it was. And I'm holding back the curtains to see what's going on. And when I looked in my dream, it zoomed in, and in the middle of a sky, what shot out was a tabernacle. And the tabernacle had doors which mechanically opened on command. And something shot out of the tabernacle, and it was a Eucharist. And where the Eucharist landed, it waited 2 seconds and then exploded like a sunshine. Rays came out of every part of the Eucharist. And I'd say about 50 rays came out in all directions. And at the end of every ray was another tabernacle. And simultaneously, on command, all of them opened at the exact same time. And 2 seconds later, a Eucharist shot out of every single one of them. And another 2 seconds later, all of them burst into an explosion of light. And thousands of rays of light lit up the sky. And at the end of the rays of light were more tabernacles. Thousands of more tabernacles, and Eucharists were shooting out of those tabernacles, and rays of light were exploding to lead to more tabernacles and more Eucharists. And it was so bright in my dream. It was like supernaturally bright. And even when I woke up in the morning, I felt like I was glowing. Like I looked down to see if I was levitating. Like I felt so light, so peaceful, so free, so joyful. And in the moment I woke up, I knew in a flash that I was healed. All the evil had literally been expunged, expelled, exorcised. Literally, the darkness that I could feel coming in on me before the dream and during the dream, I could feel being removed during the dream also. I could feel the light filling me with heavenly, eternal, powerful light. And when I woke up, I was completely and totally healed. And I have never, this was many years ago, and I have never been attacked like that again, because Jesus healed me so completely and filled me with light. That was the power of the Eucharist. Jesus could have chosen everything and anything to heal me during that dream. He didn't even need to use a dream, but he chose to use a dream, and he chose to use the Eucharist because it truly is Jesus and it truly is powerful. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're so happy to present videos that really present and open up what Catholics believe for Catholics and non-Catholics, really to help us to know, love, and live our Catholic faith with purpose and passion. If you could help support our ministry and really help us to reach millions of people for Christ and the Catholic faith, please check out our Patreon page. If you prefer PayPal, you can go to our website, thecatholictruth.org, and please do your part. Share this video, like it, give it to others, put a comment down below. And most of all, help people to know the life-changing, transforming, powerful gift that the Eucharist can be.